Hello everyone, I'm Old Kojima again. This morning, I want to take you into a Japanese home before breakfast. Not after the table is ready, not after the rice is steaming, not after everyone is dressed and running to work. I mean the first quiet part of the day, the part when the bedding is still warm, when the room is still dim, when one person wakes, then another, and a home begins to change from a place of sleep into a place of work. What did an Edo family do first thing in the morning? Did they make tea? Did they cook rice? Did they go to the well? Did they sweep the floor? The answer is yes, but not all at once, and not in the same order for every family. A morning in old Japan was not one simple task. It was a chain of tasks. Fold the bedding, let in the light, bring water, prepare the fire, cook the rice, set out the meal, sweep the entry, open the home to the street, begin the day's work. And behind every small action was a much larger idea. A family was not only waking up, they were making the whole day possible. Today, we will spend one first hour with a historically informed Edo household. We will not pretend that every family lived this way. A wealthy merchant, a farmer, a craft worker, a traveler, and a family in a crowded city longhouse all had different mornings. But by following one small household carefully, we can see how much hidden work stood behind something as ordinary as breakfast. Before we step through the door, let us make one promise to history. We will not say, "This is exactly how all Japanese people lived," because they did not. Edo Japan lasted for more than 2.5 centuries. It included busy cities, farming villages, fishing communities, mountain towns, castle districts, shop streets, and households of very different wealth. Some families had servants. Some had almost no space. Some lived above a shop. Some woke for fields. Some woke for a workshop. Some had more rice than they needed. Some had to make every handful count. So today, we are imagining an ordinary urban household. Not the poorest possible home, not a grand samurai residence, not a palace, a modest household with enough room for bedding, daily tools, a small cooking area, and perhaps a front space connected to work or trade. That matters because a home in Edo was not usually divided into the separate rooms we expect today. The place where you slept at night could become the place where you ate in the morning. The entrance could also become part of the kitchen. The front of the home could become a shop, a workspace, or a place where neighbors stopped to speak. A house was flexible because life had to be flexible, and that is why the first job in the morning was often not cooking. It was making space. But first, someone has to wake. Not because a phone rings. Not because a digital clock flashes, but because light changes, the neighborhood begins to stir, a bell may sound in the distance, and the responsibilities of the day are waiting. The first person awake might not be the same person every day. A mother with a young child may be awake first. A merchant preparing to open may rise early. A person responsible for cooking may begin before the others. A laborer may leave before breakfast is even fully finished. This is not a story about a perfect schedule. It is a story about people sharing a small space and using time carefully. Imagine that you have just opened your eyes. You are not looking across a bedroom filled with furniture. You are looking across a room that must become something else before the morning can truly begin. The bedding has to be folded. This may sound like a small thing, but in a compact home, folding bedding is not only cleaning. It is creating floor space for life. A room can now become a place to sit, eat, sew, repair, talk, prepare goods, or welcome someone at the door. There is a quiet intelligence in that. Instead of each activity owning a separate room, the household changes the room as the day changes. Night belongs to rest. Morning belongs to preparation. Day belongs to work. Evening belongs to food, conversation, and the slow return to rest. Then comes the shoji screen. When it slides open, the room changes immediately. Light enters. Air enters. Sounds from outside enter. A neighbor passes. A broom brushes against a wooden threshold. Somewhere, a seller calls. Somewhere else, water splashes into a bucket. In our homes, we often switch on the day with a light switch. In an Edo home, the day could arrive through a paper screen. Of course, the weather mattered. In cold rain, strong wind, or deep winter, the morning might feel very different. No one should imagine old homes as always peaceful and comfortable. They could be cold, smoky, crowded, and difficult, but the rhythm remains important. Before food, before work, before the front of the house opens, make the room ready. Make yourself ready. Make space for the day. Now the room is open. But the morning cannot continue without something even more basic. Water. Today, water is almost invisible. We turn a handle. We press a button. It arrives. In an Edo household, water was not invisible. It had weight. It had a sound. It had to be carried, stored, protected, and used carefully. Water was needed for washing hands and faces. Water was needed for tea. Water was needed for cooking rice. Water was needed for soup. Water was needed for cleaning. Water was needed for the first small tasks of the house. And because it was not waiting inside every home through a pipe, bringing water into the household could be part of the morning's work. The Edo Tokyo Museum describes a commoner's longhouse arrangement in which the entrance dirt floor area could serve as a kitchen with a hearth and a water jug. That water jug is easy to overlook, but look at it closely and you can see a whole morning inside it. Someone filled it. Someone carried it. Someone decided how much could be used now and how much had to remain for later. In a busy longhouse neighborhood, a shared well could also be a shared social place. People did not go there only for water. They met. They noticed who was awake. They exchanged small pieces of news. They saw the weather. They could tell when a neighbor was having a hard morning. But again, we should not turn this into a fairy tale. A shared well also meant waiting, carrying, lifting, bad weather, limited privacy, work that could not be skipped. This is one reason the morning began early. Before a meal could be made, someone had to make the ingredients possible. Water is not a background object. Water is the beginning of the kitchen, and once water is ready, attention turns toward heat. Not electricity, not gas from a modern line, but a carefully managed fire. In an Edo longhouse, the kitchen could be very close to the entrance. You step in from the street, and there is the dirt floor. There is the hearth. There is the water jug. There are the tools that turn a dark morning into food. The Edo Tokyo Museum's description of a commoner's longhouse reminds us that this was a compact arrangement, an entrance dirt floor serving as a kitchen with a hearth and water jug. Compact does not mean simple. A small kitchen demanded skill. Fuel had to be ready. The pot had to be clean. Water had to be measured. Rice had to be washed or prepared. Someone had to pay attention to heat. If the fire was too weak, the meal would take longer. If it was too strong, precious food could be spoiled. Smoke, ash, wood, heat, and time all had to be managed. Here, let us pause for a modern safety note. We are not showing you how to build or light a historical hearth in your home. Old cooking spaces involve fire, smoke, ventilation, and risks that belong in supervised historic settings or with trained professionals. What we are doing is noticing the effort. A modern kitchen hides much of its labor inside machines. The Edo kitchen showed its labor openly. You could see the fuel. You could hear the water. You could smell the smoke. You could tell, by watching one person work, how much preparation stood behind one bowl of rice. And that rice was not just breakfast. For many people in Edo, it was the work of the whole day. Now we come to the center of the morning. Rice. The Plenus Rice Culture Institute explains that rice was generally cooked once a day, and that in Edo people cooked rice in the morning and ate cold rice at midday and at night. Let us say that again, because it changes how we see breakfast. The morning pot of rice was not only for the first meal. It could help carry the household through the rest of the day. Breakfast was preparation. Breakfast was planning. Breakfast was tomorrow's energy being organized before the day became busy. This does not mean every household had the same amount of rice, the same quality of rice, or the same food beside it. The meal depended on money, place, occupation, season, and family circumstances. But the morning rice pot gives us a powerful image. A person stands in the kitchen while others are waking. The water begins to heat. The room slowly fills with steam. The smell of rice reaches the sleeping space. Now the household knows something important. Food is coming. The day has a foundation. And perhaps this is why a rice cooker feels so ordinary to us today. We press a button, walk away, and return when it is finished. But in a historical kitchen, rice cooking was one of the morning's main acts of attention. Someone had to stay near. Someone had to listen. Someone had to know the tools. There is a kind of knowledge here that is difficult to see in an old object behind museum glass. A pot is not only a pot. It is memory. How much water? How much fuel? How long? When to lower the heat? When to wait? These things were learned through repetition, not from a screen, not from a timer notification, from watching someone else do it, from doing it badly once, from doing it again tomorrow. Now the rice is ready, but a meal is not yet a meal. It is tempting to imagine historical food as one fixed picture. Rice, miso soup, pickles, finished. But real households are never that simple. Some mornings were better than others. Some seasons offered more variety. Some families had access to fish, vegetables, preserved foods, or goods from a market. Some had less. So let us imagine a modest meal, not a universal menu. A bowl of rice, a simple soup, perhaps a preserved vegetable, a small piece of fish, or another small dish depending on the household and the season. The food is modest because the morning is busy. The point is not to create a beautiful banquet. The point is to give people enough strength to begin their duties. Notice the order here. The meal did not appear because someone was hungry. It appeared because space was made. Water was brought. The kitchen was prepared. Rice was cooked. Bowls were set out. In other words, breakfast was a small organization of the whole household. And a family meal could also be a moment of communication. Who must leave early? Who needs water later? Who is taking food to work? Who will look after the home? Who has a task in the neighborhood? We cannot know every conversation, but we can understand the shape of the moment. Before the family separates into different jobs, they share the first part of the day. Then the bowls are cleared, and the home changes again. Because after food comes the work of looking respectable, staying organized, and facing the street. The morning meal is not the end of the morning. In many ways, it is the point where the day truly begins. Now comes the sweep. A broom moving across the entryway may look simple, but it says something important. The private home is about to become visible to the public world. The front has to be ready. A guest may come. A customer may come. A neighbor may come. A delivery, an errand, a child, a workmate, a seller, or a landlord may appear. In a small home, cleanliness and order were not only personal preferences. They could be part of work, reputation, and daily survival. Then there is clothing. Not fashion in the modern sense of choosing from a full wardrobe every morning. Clothing had to suit weather, work, season, repair, and what a person could afford. A person heading to a shop might prepare differently from a person heading to a field. Someone staying home to cook, clean, care for a child, sew, or repair might dress differently from someone carrying goods through the city. And many garments were used carefully, mended carefully, folded carefully, and handed down carefully. The morning is not only about looking good. It is about getting ready to move, carry, work, sit, kneel, walk, cook, sell, or travel. As the doorway opens, the sounds outside become louder. The home is no longer only a home. For many families, it is about to become a workplace. In a modern city, home and work are often separate. You leave one building and travel to another. But in an Edo town, the distance between home and work could be very small. For a shopkeeper, the front room could become a shop. For a craft worker, tools could be stored only a few steps from the family meal. For someone doing piecework, sewing, repairing, preparing goods, or managing a household business, the workday could begin before anyone stepped outside. The front opens, the street sees you, and the day begins to ask for something. This is also where the earlier tasks reveal their purpose. The bedding was folded because the room was needed. The water was brought because cooking and cleaning were needed. The rice was cooked because people needed strength through the day. The entry was swept because the home was opening to neighbors, customers, and work. The morning was not a collection of chores. It was a sequence. Each action made the next one possible. And that sequence depended on cooperation. Maybe one person fetched water while another washed the rice. Maybe one person swept while another dressed a child. Maybe the person who left earliest ate first. Maybe the person who stayed home did not stop working after everyone else had gone. This is why we should be careful with the phrase family routine. A routine is not always easy. A routine can be labor. A routine can be care. A routine can be a way of surviving one more ordinary day. I tried to borrow one idea from this old morning. Not the whole life. I cannot do that. I live in a modern world with modern safety, modern water, modern tools, and modern responsibilities. But I tried one thing. For the first hour after waking, I did not look at a screen. I made space. I folded what needed folding. I opened the room to light. I prepared water. I made something warm to drink. And I noticed how different the morning felt when each task led naturally to the next. There was no great secret, no ancient trick, no magical system that makes modern life easy. There was only a simple question. What does this home need before the day can begin? For an Edo family, the answer might have been bedding, water, fire, rice, bowls, brooms, tools, and an open front door. For us, the answer may be different, but perhaps the feeling is familiar. Before messages, before traffic, before work, before the noise of the day, there is a first small act of care. A room becomes ready. A body becomes ready. A household becomes ready. That is what an Edo family did first thing in the morning. They did not simply wake up. They built the day with their hands. Thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this morning in Old Japan, please tell me in the comments. What should old Kojima investigate next? How did people wash clothes before washing machines? How did they keep a home clean without vacuums? How did a family cook rice before electric cookers? Or how did people see at night before electricity? Until next time, take your first hour slowly. I'm Old Kojima. Goodbye for now.